The skies above Valar were no longer blue. For centuries, the peaceful Vailari had lived under gentle azure heavens, but now an angry red glow stained their world both day and night. Their sun was dying, far too soon and far too quickly. Ambassador, Thalavan stood before the planetary communication array, her four slender arms trembling slightly as she adjusted the final settings. Behind her, the remainder of the planetary council waited in tense silence. Through the wide windows of the broadcast center, they could all see the swollen red star that had nurtured their civilization for millennia, now betraying them with its premature death throes. "The signal is ready," Thala said, her voice steady despite her fear. "It will broadcast continuously on all known frequencies used by the Galactic Conclave." Head scientist Morrow nodded solemnly. "Our calculations are certain. We have less than one standard cycle before the solar flares become too intense for any ships to safely approach or leave our world. After that, no one needed him to finish. After that, their entire species, 9 billion souls with a history stretching back 20,000 years, would perish." "Begin the transmission," ordered Chief Elder Kal, the oldest among them. His skin, normally a vibrant teal like all Vailari, had paled to a sickly blue-gray in recent days. Thala pressed her palm against the activation panel. The enormous dish outside the facility hummed to life, directing their desperate plea to the stars. "This is Ambassador Thalavan of Valar, addressing all members of the Galactic Conclave. Our star has entered an unexpected and catastrophic decay phase. Stellar physics projections give us less than one full cycle before planetary evacuation becomes impossible. We lack sufficient spacecraft to evacuate even 1% of our population." She paused, fighting back emotion. "The Vailari have been peaceful members of the galactic community for over 8 centuries. We now humbly request immediate evacuation assistance. We possess significant cultural and scientific knowledge that will be lost forever. More importantly, billions of lives, including nearly 2 billion children, will be extinguished without your help." Thala continued, providing technical details about their planet's orbit, atmospheric composition, and the specific timeline of their star's decay. She ended with a final plea. "We await your response with hope. Please hurry." For 3 days, they waited. The first reply came from the Zikatari Dominion, whose territory was closest to Valar space. "Regrettable situation. Current fleet deployments prevent significant resource allocation. Sending scientific vessel to document stellar anomaly." Next came the Murian Collective. "Our non-interference protocols prohibit large-scale intervention in natural cosmic events. Sending cultural archival team to preserve Vailari knowledge." One by one, the great powers of the galaxy responded with diplomatic language that all translated to the same message: "We will not save you." On the 7th day, the Galactic Conclave itself, the unified voice of the 42 most advanced civilizations, issued its official statement. "After careful deliberation, the situation on Valar has been classified as beyond feasible intervention parameters. Evacuation on the scale required exceeds current logistical capabilities without compromising essential services across multiple sectors." In the command center, now staffed around the clock, Thala read the message aloud to the council. When she finished, silence filled the room. "They're leaving us to die," whispered a young council member. Chief Elder Kal closed his large, multifaceted eyes. "Continue broadcasting. Perhaps someone will still hear us." At the edge of human space, Lieutenant Commander Sophia Chen piloted her patrol vessel along the border of the Arcturus sector. Earth had only joined the interstellar community 30 years ago, after developing their own faster-than-light drive. The older species still viewed humans with a mixture of curiosity and caution, primitives who had somehow stumbled into the cosmic conversation. Chen's patrol route was routine, more diplomatic than defensive. Humanity was still proving itself, trustworthy, still learning the complex rules of galactic politics. "Commander, I'm picking up an unusual signal," reported Ensign Rodriguez, the communications officer. "It's repeating on multiple frequencies." "Source?" Chen asked, adjusting their course slightly to investigate. It's coming from deep in Sector 7. That's Vailari space, I think. The signal's degraded, like it's been traveling for a while. Chen frowned. Her orders were clear. Maintain the patrol route. Avoid unnecessary detours. Represent Earth with professionalism and restraint. But something about a degraded signal repeating across multiple bands raised her instincts. Let's hear it, she said. The gentle voice of a Vailari filled the bridge, describing a horror beyond imagination, an entire world facing extinction while the galactic community watched and did nothing. Chen had never met a Vailari. Few humans had. They were known to be peaceful scholars and artists, one of the older civilizations that had welcomed Earth cautiously but kindly into the galactic fold. How old is this transmission? She asked, already bringing up the navigation. Controls. Based on signal degradation, approximately 8 days. Chen made her decision. Send the full transmission to Earth Command immediately. Attach my recommendation for urgent humanitarian response. She paused, then added, and plot a course for the Vailari system. Rodriguez looked up in shock. Commander, that's well outside our patrol zone. We'd need authorization to... Note my decision in the log as mine alone, Chen interrupted, her fingers already programming the new course. If they want to court-martial me later, they're welcome to it. I'm not ignoring a planetary distress call. As their small vessel turned and accelerated toward Vailari space, Chen knew she might be ending her career. But the alternative, continuing her patrol while pretending she hadn't heard billions crying out for help, was unthinkable. On Valar, a small child named Lini sat on her mother's lap, watching the angry red sky through their apartment window. In the streets below, people moved with quick, nervous energy, preparing for an end they couldn't escape. Will anyone come to help us, Mother? Lini asked, her large eyes reflecting the ominous light from their dying sun. Her mother held her tighter. I don't know, little one. We have asked, but the galaxy is very busy and we are just one world. But we're important too, aren't we? Yes, her mother whispered, a tear sliding down her face. We are. In the darkness of space, unbeknownst to them, a single human ship accelerated toward their world, while behind it, on Earth, humanity was about to make a decision that would change the course of galactic history. The message from Lieutenant Commander Chen reached Earth during a routine meeting of the United Space Command. Screens around the conference room displayed the Vailari distress call, followed by Chen's brief report and her decision to redirect toward their dying world. Admiral Kenzo Takamura, head of the Space Command, watched the faces of his colleagues as they absorbed the information. Some showed shock, others concern, and a few displayed clear disapproval at Chen's unauthorized course change. She's violated protocol, said General Harris, tapping his finger against the table. We're still on probation with the Galactic Conclave. If we interfere in something they've already ruled on, then what? Asked Captain Diane Okafor, the youngest officer present. They'll be disappointed in us? Meanwhile, an entire civilization dies? Admiral Takamura raised his hand for silence. Unlike the others, he hadn't immediately spoken after viewing the transmission. Instead, his mind had traveled back 40 years to when he was just a boy in Tokyo when the great tsunami struck. He remembered waiting on a rooftop for 3 days, watching as the waters claimed his city and many of his neighbors. International help had come, but too late for thousands. Send a message to Commander Chen, he said finally. Tell her to continue to Valar, assess the situation and report back immediately. General Harris stood up. Admiral, this directly contradicts the Conclave's decision. We risk our standing. What standing? Takamura asked quietly. The standing of those who stand by and watch. Billions die. I'm not interested in such standing. Within hours, news of the Vailari crisis spread across Earth. The unedited distress call was released to the public, along with the responses from the Galactic Conclave and other advanced civilizations. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. People couldn't understand how spacefaring races with vastly superior technology could ignore such a plea. Protests formed outside alien embassies. Children sent drawings and letters addressed to the Children of Valar. Religious leaders held special services, and most importantly, thousands of spacecraft pilots, engineers, and medical professionals volunteered to help. 3 days later, an emergency session of the United Earth Security Council was called. Representatives from every nation gathered to decide Earth's official response. The Galactic Conclave has determined that evacuation is not feasible, said the Chinese representative. Their technology is centuries beyond ours. If they cannot achieve it, how can we? The Conclave didn't say they couldn't do it, corrected the Nigerian representative. They said it wasn't worth the resource allocation. That's very different. Debate raged for hours. Earth's fleet was small compared to the older civilizations. They had fewer than 200 ships capable of interstellar travel. The logistics of evacuating billions seemed impossible. Finally, Admiral Takamura was called to speak. He walked slowly to the podium carrying a small tablet. The room fell silent. I have just received Commander Chen's initial report from Valar, he began. The situation is worse than we thought. Their star will become fatally unstable within 3 weeks, not the month originally estimated. He paused, looking around the room. Many of you have argued that we cannot save everyone, so we should save no one. That the attempt would damage our standing with the Conclave. That we should focus on collecting cultural artifacts instead, as the Murians suggested. Takamura set down his tablet and gripped the edges of the podium. When I was 8 years old, I survived the Great Tokyo tsunami. I watched from a rooftop as people drowned. I heard their cries for help, and I saw how some boats passed by full survivors because they feared capsizing if they took on more. His voice grew stronger. I promised myself then that if I ever had the power to save lives, I would never turn away. He looked around the chamber again. If we claim to be part of a galactic community while ignoring the collapse of an entire civilization, then we have failed not just as a species, but as sentient beings capable of compassion. The room remained silent when he finished. Then, slowly, delegates began to stand one by one until the entire assembly was on their feet. The vote was unanimous. Earth would attempt the impossible. They would try to save the Vailari people. On Valar, conditions were rapidly deteriorating. Solar radiation had increased by 30%, forcing many to remain indoors. Earthquakes shook the planet daily as the gravitational forces from their unstable star pulled at their world's core. Ambassador Thela Van had just finished another day of broadcasting their increasingly desperate signal when an aide rushed into her office. Ambassador, we've received a response. Thela's heart jumped. From the Conclave? Have they reconsidered? No, said the aide, his skin flushing a brighter blue with excitement. It's from Earth. Thela blinked rapidly, her species equivalent of surprise. Earth? The human world? Minutes later, she watched the message from Admiral Takamura, speaking on behalf of the United Earth government. People of Valar, we have heard your call. The people of Earth have voted unanimously to mount a rescue mission to your world. Our fleet is small and our technology limited compared to others in the galaxy. But we will do everything in our power to save as many of your people as possible. The first human ships will arrive within days with our main fleet to follow. Do not lose hope. Earth is coming. Thela watched the message 3 times, tears streaming down her face. When she finally composed herself, she hurried to inform the Planetary Council. The news spread quickly across Valar, met with both desperate hope and skepticism. Most Vailari had never met a human. Some had heard rumors that humans were primitive, unpredictable warriors who had somehow stumbled upon space travel before properly maturing as a species. Can they really help us when the Conclave could not? Asked Chief Elder Kal. They're willing to try, Thela replied simply. No one else even offered that much. 3 days later, a single human vessel entered Vailari orbit. Lieutenant Commander Sophia Chen's patrol ship had pushed its engines beyond safety protocols to arrive ahead of the main Earth fleet. As Chen prepared to shuttle down to the surface, her communications officer looked worried. Commander, scans show large crowds gathering at the landing site. We don't know how they'll react. Chen nodded as she checked her sidearm, standard protocol. then deliberately removed it and locked it away. If I'm about to be the first human they meet, I want them to understand exactly who we are and why we've come, she said. Hours later, Chen stood facing a crowd of thousands of desperate Valari. Their four-armed, blue-skinned forms were different from humans, but Chen immediately recognized the universal expressions of fear, hope, and suspicion on their faces. Ambassador Thalavan stepped forward, her translator device ready. You are truly from Earth? Just one ship? Chen removed her helmet, revealing her face to the alien air, which her scans had confirmed was breathable for humans. I'm Lieutenant Commander Sophia Chen of Earth, she said clearly. My ship was closest when we received your distress call. I came ahead to begin preparations. She extended her hand, a human gesture of friendship. This is just the beginning, Chen promised. Earth is coming. Back on Earth, a massive operation was underway. Every available spacecraft was being prepared for the rescue mission. Military vessels, science ships, cargo haulers, and even half-finished ships still under construction were pulled into service. In a massive hangar outside New Shanghai, Admiral Takamura walked between rows of ships being modified to carry more passengers. Engineers worked day and night installing temporary life support systems and converting cargo holds into passenger quarters. How many can each transport carry? Takamura asked Chief Engineer Liang. We're aiming for 3 times normal capacity. Liang replied, wiping sweat from her forehead. It's not comfortable, but it will be safe enough for a short journey. The real problem is the total numbers. Even with every ship we have, we can only transport a few million people. The Vailari population is in the billions. Takamura nodded grimly. Keep working. We'll find a way. Across Earth, retired pilots returned to service. Young cadets still in training were assigned to support roles. Civilians with spacecraft experience volunteered in droves. Medical teams prepared for alien patients. Scientists studied all available data on Vailari biology. Not everyone supported the mission. Protests formed outside government buildings with signs reading, Earth first and not our problem. But they were far outnumbered by those supporting the rescue effort. 2 days after Earth announced its decision, a formal message arrived from the Galactic Conclave. The Conclave notes with concern Earth's announced intention to interfere in the Valar situation, which has been officially classified as beyond intervention parameters. This reckless action violates established protocols and threatens the careful balance of galactic relations. Earth is strongly advised to reconsider this course of action or face potential economic and diplomatic consequences. The message was brought directly to United Nations Secretary-General Maya Okonkwo. After reading it, she immediately called an emergency meeting with Earth's ambassador to the conclave. They're threatening us, said Ambassador James Kim. Several of the major powers have already mentioned trade restrictions if we continue. Secretary-General Okonkwo looked out the window at the busy streets of New York below. Do they really think economic threats will stop us from trying to save billions of lives? They don't understand us yet, Ambassador Kim replied. They see our technology as primitive and our methods as unpredictable. What they fear most is the precedent we're setting by ignoring their decision. Okonkwo turned back to him. Draft a response. Keep it brief. An hour later, Earth's official reply was transmitted to the conclave. We have heard your concerns, so be it. Earth's mission continues. On Valar, Lieutenant Commander Chen worked tirelessly with Ambassador Thalavan to organize the evacuation. In the week since her arrival, conditions had worsened dramatically. The sky had turned a dark crimson, and dangerous radiation levels forced many Vailari to move underground. We need to prioritize who goes first when the fleet arrives, Chen explained, looking at maps of Vailari population centers. Children, medical cases, and essential knowledge keepers should be in the first wave. Thela nodded, though her expression showed the terrible weight of such decisions. How do we tell some they will be saved while others must wait? Possibly until it's too late? Before Chen could answer, the ground shook violently. It was the third major quake that day. Dust fell from the ceiling of the underground command center they had established. Status report. Chen called out to the mixed team of humans from her ship and Vailari officials working at monitoring stations. Northern continent hit hardest, reported a Vailari technician, his fingers moving quickly across the control panel. The city of Lural is reporting major structural collapses, thousands trapped. Chen immediately activated her communicator. Rodriguez, get our shuttle ready. Medical team on board. Thala looked surprised. You're going there personally? But the northern lands are experiencing the highest radiation levels. Then we'll need to work quickly, Chen replied, already heading for the door. My team's environmental suits can handle the radiation better than your people can. We'll help with rescue efforts. Hours later, Chen and her small team of 5 humans worked through the ruins of collapsed buildings in Lural. Their environmental suits gave them protection, not just from radiation, but also from the falling debris, as aftershocks continued to rock the city. What they hadn't expected was how useful they would be in the rescue efforts. Valar had slightly lower gravity than Earth, and the humans found they could lift heavier pieces of rubble than the Vailari rescuers. Over here, called Ensign Park, the youngest member of Chen's crew. He had located a pocket in the ruins where a family of Vailari were trapped, a fallen support beam blocking their exit. Chen and 2 others positioned themselves around the massive beam. On 3, she ordered. 1, 2, 3. With a collective grunt of effort, they lifted the beam, high enough for the trapped Vailari to crawl out. Among them was a small child, no more than 5 or 6 years old in human terms. The child stared up at Chen in her bulky environmental suit, then reached out one small hand to touch the clear faceplate. Chen smiled and knelt down, even as her suit's radiation counter ticked upward, warning they had limited time in the open. "Hello there," she said, knowing her translator would convert her words. "You're safe now." The child spoke rapidly to an adult, who then addressed Chen. "My daughter asks if you are from the stars that still shine properly, not like our angry sun." Chen nodded. "Yes, I'm from Earth." "Earth," the child repeated, the word sounding musical in the Vailari language. "Will you take us there?" "We're going to try," Chen promised. In orbit around Valar, Chen's patrol ship detected multiple incoming vessels. For one brief, hopeful moment, the crew thought the Conclave had changed its mind and sent help. Instead, their sensors identified the approaching fleet as human, the advanced ships of Earth's rescue mission. 20 vessels of various sizes and types dropped out of faster-than-light travel, their hulls bearing the marks of hasty preparation. On the bridge of the lead ship, a converted military transport named Mercy, Captain Abayomi Oladele opened a channel to Chen's vessel. "Lieutenant Commander, this is Captain Oladele. We got here as fast as we could. The main fleet is 2 days behind us." Chen felt relief wash over her. "Captain, you have no idea how glad we are to see you. The situation planetside is deteriorating faster than predicted." "We heard. That's why we pushed the engines beyond safety limits to get the first group here early." There was a pause. "Commander, I should warn you, even with the entire Earth fleet, we can't evacuate the whole population. The numbers just don't add up." Chen looked out the viewport at the dying red star. "I know, Captain, but we're going to save as many as we possibly can." On the planet below, news of the arriving human ship spread rapidly. For the first time since their star began to die, the Vailari people allowed themselves to feel something that had been missing for too long: hope. 3 days later, the main Earth fleet arrived in Vailari space, a mismatched collection of over 150 vessels of all shapes and sizes. Military ships flew alongside converted cargo haulers. Luxury passenger liners shared formation with scientific research vessels. Some ships still had construction scaffolding attached, having been launched before they were fully completed. From the planet's surface, the arriving fleet looked like a new constellation in the angry red sky. The evacuation began immediately. Landing zones were established on all continents, and the first human ships descended through Valar's increasingly unstable atmosphere. Commander Chen coordinated ground operations from the capital city, working with Ambassador Thala Van to maintain order as desperate crowds gathered at the landing sites. "We need more security," Thala said worriedly as she watched thousands of Vailari push toward a freshly landed Earth transport. "They're frightened. The quakes are getting worse and everyone wants to be on the first ships. Chen nodded grimly. I know, but we have to stick to the evacuation plan. Children and essential knowledge keepers first. Despite careful planning, the reality of the situation was becoming clear to everyone. Even with all of Earth's ships making multiple trips, they could evacuate only a small fraction of the Valari population before the planet became uninhabitable. In orbit, Admiral Takamura had arrived with the main fleet aboard his flagship, Humanity's Promise. The aging admiral stood on the bridge, watching the rescue operation through the main view screen. Status report, he requested. First wave of evacuees are boarding now, sir, reported his first officer. At current capacity, we can transport approximately 300,000 per trip. Round-trip time to the nearest safe location is about 30 hours. Takamura did the math in his head. It wasn't enough. Not nearly enough. Suddenly, an alert sounded. Admiral, multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel near the outer edge of the system. Takamura tensed. Had the Conclave decided to interfere with their mission? Identify them, he ordered. The sensor officer worked quickly. Sir, it's not the Conclave. It's a Hrextal war cruiser. An old one. Everyone on the bridge fell silent. The Hrextal were a warrior species known for their massive battle cruisers. They rarely ventured outside their own territory except during times of conflict. Are they charging weapons? Takamura asked quietly. No, sir. They're hailing us. On screen. The view screen flickered, and the image of a Hrextal commander appeared. The reptilian alien's scales showed the gray of advanced age, and one eye was covered with a metallic patch. I am Commander Vexkar of the cruiser Unrelenting Past, the Hrextal announced, his translator giving his words a deep, rumbling quality. We have monitored your communications. You attempt to save the Vailari when the Conclave refused. Takamura stepped forward. That is correct. This is a humanitarian mission. The Hrextal commander was silent for a moment, then made a gesture that might have been respect. The Hrextal High Command did not authorize my presence here, but I commanded this vessel for 60 cycles before retirement. Its crew follows me still, even against orders. He paused, then continued. Our ship can transport 50,000 of the blue ones. Where shall we land? Takamura couldn't hide his surprise. You're offering to help? Our conclave does not speak for all of us, Vexkar replied simply. Sometimes the young must remind the old of honor's demands. Before Takamura could respond, another alert sounded. Sir, more ships incoming. Dozens of them. Over the next few hours, an extraordinary scene unfolded in Vailari space. Ships from across the galaxy arrived one by one, or in small groups. There were Pelleran trading vessels, their angular hulls designed for carrying valuable cargo, now empty and ready for passengers. Scientific ships from the Murian Collective appeared, their captains having defied their government's non-interference policy. Even a few vessels from the Zakatari Dominion arrived, piloted by younger members of their species who had broken with tradition. None had been sent by their governments. None had official approval. They were captained by individuals who had watched the humans' efforts and decided they could not stand by, while an entire civilization perished. On the bridge of Humanity's Promise, Admiral Takamura received transmission after transmission, each following a similar pattern. We saw what Earth was doing. Our government refused to help, but we could not remain idle. If humans with their limited technology can try, how could we not? A Pelleran merchant captain perhaps said it best. We are the unwanted and the disobedient of 100 worlds. Admiral, but today we choose to be something more. With each new arrival, the chances of saving more Vailari increased. The evacuation centers on the planet's surface became scenes of organized chaos as ships from a dozen different species landed alongside human vessels. In the capital city, Chen and Thala watched in amazement as a massive Hrextal landing craft descended from the clouds, its hull scarred from ancient battles. I never thought I would see a Hrextal ship land in peace on our world, Thala said wonderingly. Humanity may have started this, Chen replied, but it seems we've reminded others of something they had forgotten. The ground suddenly shook violently, the worst quake yet. Buildings that had withstood the previous tremors began to collapse. Chen's communicator crackled with urgent reports from across the planet. Solar activity spiking, warned the science officer aboard Chen's patrol ship in orbit. Massive flare detected on the star's surface, heading toward the planet. Impact in approximately 8 hours. Chen looked at Thala, the implications clear. They had just lost precious time. The planet would become uninhabitable sooner than their most pessimistic predictions. We need to accelerate the evacuation, Chen said. Get everyone possible onto the ships, any ships, immediately. As they rushed to update the evacuation plans, a small Vailari child, the same one Chen had rescued from the collapsed building days before, approached them. She carried a small object in her 4 hands. The child spoke to Thala in their native language, then held out the object to Chen. It was a small crystal sculpture of intertwined circles, glowing with a soft inner light. She says this has been in her family for 12 generations, Thala translated. She wants you to have it, so you will remember that we waited, and you came. Chen carefully took the precious gift, fighting back tears. Tell her I will never forget, she said. Above them, in the darkening sky, more ships continued to arrive, an Aisyo armada of the unwanted and disobedient, come to join humanity in their impossible rescue mission. The massive solar flare racing toward Valar changed everything. What had been a desperate but organized evacuation became a frantic race against time. All ships, this is Admiral Takamura aboard Humanity's Promise. Solar flare impact estimated in 7 hours 43 minutes. All evacuation protocols accelerated to emergency status. Maximum capacity authorized for all vessels, I repeat, maximum capacity. Across the planet's surface, evacuation centers became scenes of controlled chaos. The carefully planned departure order was abandoned as ships took on as many Vailari as could physically fit aboard. In the capital city, Commander Chen and Ambassador Thala worked tirelessly to maintain some semblance of order. We need to move these people to the eastern landing zone, Chen shouted over the noise of the crowd and the rumbling ground. The western zone won't be safe when the flare hits. Thala nodded, her normally bright blue skin pale with exhaustion. For days she had barely slept, coordinating between her people and the rescue fleet. Commander called Rodriguez through Chen's communicator. We've received word from the science team. They have a proposal, but it's risky. Minutes later, Chen and Thala joined a group of human and alien scientists in a makeshift command center. The lead human scientist, Dr. Emma Chandra, pointed to a display showing Valar's deteriorating magnetic field. Our shield technology can't protect the whole planet, Dr. Chandra explained, but we believe we can create a series of localized magnetic shields over the main evacuation zones. How long would these shields last? Chen asked. 12 hours at most. The power requirements are enormous, and eventually the generators will burn out. Dr. Chandra's expression was grave. And there's another problem. The shields must be deployed and calibrated manually. Someone has to stay on the surface to maintain them. Silence fell over the room. Everyone understood what this meant. Whoever stayed to operate the shields would likely not survive. I'll do it, said a Murian scientist, speaking through his translator. My species can withstand higher radiation levels than most. No, interrupted a human engineer. The calibration requires human reflexes. I'll stay. Before an argument could break out, Takamura's voice came through the communication. System, this is Admiral Takamura. I've reviewed the shield proposal and approved it. I'm assembling volunteer teams from all species. No one does this alone. Within hours, shield generators were deployed at 7 major evacuation sites across Valar. Mixed teams of humans, Rextal, Murians, and others worked together to set up the equipment, each bringing their unique strengths and abilities to the task. As the shields hummed to life, creating shimmering domes over the evacuation zones, a new message arrived from deep space. It was from the Galactic Conclave. In light of the widespread individual actions of citizens from multiple member worlds, The Conclave has voted to provide limited emergency assistance to Valar. Automated transport vessels are being dispatched. The Conclave notes this action does not constitute a reversal of policy but is a special accommodation. When Thala heard the news, she gave a bitter laugh. Now they help? When others have shamed them into it? At least it's something, Chen replied, watching as another human ship took off packed with Velari refugees. Every ship means more lives saved. As the hours passed, the evacuation continued non-stop. Ships arrived, filled beyond capacity, and departed. The mixed fleet of vessels from across the galaxy formed a continuous stream between Valar and the EO, designated safe zones in nearby star systems. Despite their best efforts, the math remained brutal. By the time the solar flare was 1 hour from impact, less than half of Valar's population had been evacuated. In a quiet moment amid the chaos, Thala found Chen overseeing the loading of another transport. "Commander, I need your help with something. Personal," Thala said, leading Chen away from the crowd. In a small room nearby, a young Vailari child waited. Thala's daughter, Mina. "I've arranged for Mina to be on the next transport," Thala explained, her voice steady despite the emotion Chen could see in her eyes. "But I must remain to coordinate the remaining evacuations." Chen understood immediately. "You want me to make sure she gets aboard safely?" "Yes, and—" Thala hesitated. "If possible, I would ask that she be taken to Earth. I've heard how your people treat children, even those not your own." "I promise," Chen said solemnly. "If I can't take her myself, I'll find someone who will care for her until—" The words hung unspoken. "Until you can join her. Or until she must grow up without you." Chen escorted Mina to the transport, holding the child's small hand. At the boarding ramp, Mina suddenly stopped and turned back, calling out for her mother. Thala stood at a distance, maintaining her composure as she waved goodbye. "Your mother is very brave," Chen told the child through her translator. "She's helping save many people. She wants you to be safe." Mina looked up at Chen with large, tear-filled eyes. "Will you tell me about Earth? Is it beautiful?" "Very beautiful," Chen assured her as they continued up the ramp. "It has blue oceans and green forests and mountains that reach to the sky." After seeing Mina safely aboard and entrusted to a human family who promised to care for her, Chen returned to the evacuation zone. The shield above them shimmered as the first radiation waves from the approaching solar flare began to reach Valar. A massive quake suddenly rocked the area, larger than any before. Buildings collapsed and chasms opened in the ground. One of the shield generators toppled, causing the protective dome to flicker dangerously. "Radiation levels rising," shouted a human technician. "Shield integrity failing in Sector 3. Chen rushed toward the damaged generator. A group of humans and aliens were already there, working frantically to stabilize it. Among them was Admiral Takamura, his uniform dusty and torn. "Admiral!" Chen called out in surprise. "Couldn't let you have all the adventure, Commander," Takamura replied with a grim smile. "Besides, old men like me have already lived our lives. These people still have futures ahead of them." Together with the mixed species team, they managed to reset the generator. The shield solidified again, but the damage to the area was extensive. Hundreds of Vailari were trapped in a collapsed building nearby, cut off from the evacuation zone. "We need to get them out before the main flare hits," Chen said, already moving toward the collapsed structure. "Chen, wait!" Takamura called after her. "The last transport in this zone leaves in 20 minutes. If you're not on it—" Chen looked at the Admiral, then at the trapped Vailari. "Then I guess I'd better work fast, sir." 3 years later, New Valar, Jupiter's fifth moon, Earth solar system. The terraformed moon glowed with soft blue light as Vailari cities spread across its surface. Specially designed atmospheric generators created conditions similar to the Vailari homeworld, allowing the refugees to live without environmental suits. Earth scientists had worked alongside Vailari experts to transform the previously barren moon into a new homeland. In the central plaza of the largest settlement, a Awinaidu's ceremony was taking place. Thousands of Vailari gathered alongside human representatives from Earth. At the center of the plaza stood a monument, a crystal sculpture showing two hands, one human and one Vailari, reaching toward each other across space. Ambassador Thela Van, one of the last to leave the dying planet, stepped forward to address the crowd. Her daughter Mina, now 3 years older, stood proudly at her side. 3 years ago today, when our world was dying and the galaxy turned away, humanity answered our cry. Thela began, her voice strong and clear. Of the 9 billion Vailari who once lived on our homeworld, only 3 billion could be saved before the final solar flare made rescue impossible. Her voice softened. We mourn those we lost. But today we also celebrate what was found, a new beginning, and a friendship between our peoples that will endure for generations. Thela gestured toward a group of humans in the front row. Among them sat Admiral Takamura, now retired, and Commander Sophia Chen, recently promoted to captain. These humans and thousands like them risked everything for people they had never met. They defied the Galactic Conclave. They inspired others across the galaxy to remember compassion, and in doing so, they changed not just our fate, but the course of galactic history. The integration of the Vailari into the solar system had not been without challenges. Cultural differences, resource allocation, and the trauma of losing their homeworld had created tensions at times. But over the 3 years, both species had found unexpected complementary strengths. The Vailari's advanced scientific knowledge had accelerated Earth's technological development, while humans' adaptability and practical problem-solving had helped the Vailari adjust to their new circumstances. After Thela finished speaking, Admiral Takamura slowly made his way to the podium. Age had bent his back, but his eyes remained sharp. When we first heard your distress call, many thought saving your people was impossible, Takamura said, and from a purely logical perspective, perhaps it was. We couldn't save everyone, but in facing the impossible together, we discovered something more valuable than logic. We discovered who we truly are. As night fell over New Valar, a special event was prepared. Thela Van guided Captain Chen and Admiral Takamura to a large observatory at the highest point of the settlement. Inside, a group of Vailari astronomers worked with complex instruments that combined their ancient knowledge with Earth technology. We have a gift to share with you, Thela explained, leading them to the main viewing platform. Using our astronomical traditions, which date back 20,000 years, we have officially renamed a constellation. The dome of the observatory opened, revealing the night sky. Jupiter loomed large on the horizon, its massive presence dominating the view. But beyond it, the stars of the Milky Way spread out in brilliant display. A Vailari astronomer activated a holographic display, highlighting a pattern of stars. This constellation was once named for a forgotten Vailari war deity, Thela explained. It has now been officially registered in both Vailari and Earth astronomical catalogs under a new name, Humanity's Hand. The hologram traced the shape of a human hand reaching out among the stars. No matter what happens in the future, when either of our peoples look up at the night sky, this constellation will remind us of those who reached out when no one else would. After the ceremony, Chen found herself walking through the memorial garden with Mina, now 10 years old by Earth reckoning. The girl had adapted well to life on New Valar, and had become something of a bridge between human and Vailari children. Captain Chen, Mina said, using Chen's new rank with pride, I never thanked you properly for saving me. You don't need to thank me, Chen replied with a smile. I was just doing what anyone would have done. Mina shook her head, a gesture she had learned from humans. No, not anyone. The Conclave didn't. Many others didn't. Only humans. And then those who followed your example. They stopped by a small crystal tree, planted in soil brought from Valar before its destruction. Beneath it lay the small family heirloom that Mina had given to Chen years ago. My mother told me what you did after you put me on the transport, Mina said quietly. How you went back for the others trapped in the building. How you almost didn't make it off planet yourself. Chen looked embarrassed. There were many heroes that day, not just me. Yes, but you were my hero, Mina said simply. Then, to Chen's surprise, the young Vailari reached out her hand, not in the traditional Vailari greeting with palms facing inward, but in the human gesture of handshaking that Chen had first shown when she arrived on their dying world. With a lump in her throat, Chen took the offered hand. Elsewhere in the garden, Admiral Takamura sat on a bench alongside Thela Van, both of them watching the moons of Jupiter slowly traverse the alien sky. The Galactic Conclave has changed since the evacuation, Thela observed. The Valar Protocol now requires all spacefaring civilizations to respond to extinction-level emergencies, regardless of political concerns. Takamura nodded. Sometimes, the universe needs a reminder of what truly matters. Do you regret it? Thela asked. The sanctions Earth faced afterward, the resources spent that could have gone to your own people? Takamura looked thoughtful. In the tsunami that struck Tokyo when I was a child, I saw both the worst and best of people. Some turned away from those in need, concerned only with their own survival. Others sacrificed everything to help strangers. He turned to face the Vailari ambassador. I believe a civilization is defined not by its technology or its power, but by which choice it makes in such moments. As night deepened, humans and Vailari gathered together across New Valar to watch the celestial display. Above them, the newly named constellation Humanity's hand shone down upon them all, a permanent reminder written in the stars themselves of the day when the galaxy turned away. But humanity answered. And in the 3 years since that fateful evacuation, other changes had rippled across the galaxy. The ships that had defied their governments to join the rescue, the self-proclaimed Armada of the Unwanted, had returned to their worlds not as criminals, but as catalysts for change. The story of Earth's impossible fleet and the species who joined them had spread, inspiring a new generation of interstellar cooperation. On a viewpoint overlooking the largest Vailari settlement, Captain Chen stood with a group of human and Vailari children. One of the human children pointed up at the constellation. Is it true you changed the stars, Captain? Chen smiled, shaking her head. No, we didn't change the stars. We just remembered who we are.